Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of Talking Shop. My name is Josh Overton. I get the pleasure and the honor and the privilege of being the director here at Zoweh Allies and hanging out with you on Talking Shop, our weekly live stream on all things leadership, encouragement, and guidance as we seek to fight for the hearts of the men in our communities, in our families, in our churches, in and around us. And man, as we come to the end of the year and I think of Thanksgiving and the holidays, I think my heart is just in a season of gratitude naturally. Hopefully yours is too, or at least getting there. And even this past Friday, our team circled up here at Zoweh, and we circled up and had dinner and just spent time celebrating the goodness of God, the goodness of all of these incredible missions that we've been able to go on. We kind of took the second half of the year, really since August, and we just went through every single event, every single mission, every single Dangers for Good Men Summit, and King Me Advance, and just shared stories. We read impact sheets and recalled what we saw and how we experienced it. And man, every single event that we were able to partner and host, it involved you. It involved allies. There were individuals that initiated those opportunities. There were individuals like you who stepped into missions with us to do this and go after all of the goodness that God has for us and the men that gathered. Whether you were a guide at Advance or maybe you were part of a leadership team that helped pull off a DFG event in Indiana or Ohio, or Michael and SJ were in Pennsylvania. Maybe we were just all over the place, man. And it's incredible. And I just want to say thank you. And I just want to say how much we do not take for granted the opportunity we get to walk with you and do this together. So, yeah, good morning to you, Knock. Congratulations on baby Takoa. And to all of you guys that are either watching this live or will be watching this on a replay later. But I want to tell you a couple things. I'm going to mention them at the beginning, and then I'll mention them again at the end. I just want to make sure that you are aware of as an ally. And the first is on December the 10th. On December the 10th, we are going to kick off a virtual allies roundtable. And so we've done some of this stuff in the past. We kind of took a break in 2025, mainly because we wanted to recalibrate and just realign the purpose of some of these Zoom calls that we've been hosting. But after talking with several of you, I know that was something you valued. And so we want to bring that back. And we're going to kick off our very first one, the roundtable, on December the 10th at 8 o'clock. So you're going to be seeing a lot of communication here on the Facebook group, also in your email inboxes, with an opportunity to register for that. That'll give you the link to join. So that's at 8 o'clock. But at 7:30, I'm actually going to be hosting kind of a pre-show party where I'll be doing some giveaways, and really just give me an opportunity to really just lean in and connect with you guys before we dive into the content of the call, which is really set up as we come to the end of 2025 and we look ahead for what God is putting in our hearts and showing us for 2026. I want to make sure that you guys know how Zoweh is positioning ourselves to support you, to encourage you, to continue walking with you as we all walk with God. So that's December the 10th. It'll be a Zoom call, Allies Roundtable. Just be looking out for the registration link on that, and more information to come. But I want to make sure you know that. Also, the Heart of a Warrior encounter is coming up in April of 2026. Registration is open for our alumni and our allies. That's you. So a lot of you don't come alone, which is fantastic. And we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to grab a seat and to set up a group for your men. That way you guys can all be grouped together, room together, and kind of move through the weekend together. So go ahead and sign up, Zoweh.org/events. And if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to me or Sherry, our event coordinator, at events@Zoweh.org. Events@Zoweh.org if you have any questions. Or you can go ahead and sign up to register at Zoweh.org/events. So really looking forward to that. You know, the encounter is such a huge, pivotal part of what we do. And I really believe that as you're looking at your strategy, a lot of you are in a mode where you're prepping and planning for next year and what you want to do. I know a lot of people kind of kick off new conversations, new studies, new small groups after Christmas. And so would love to talk with you about how the encounter could integrate with your strategy, how it could integrate with your rhythm for what you're planning to do with your men, be it a ministry, an initiative, be it a small group, be it a couple friends that you're just circling up around the back porch with. I think encounter could be a pivotal piece of that. And so would love to try to make sure you can get, that you got all the information you need to get signed up for that. And then the last thing I just want to mention before we dive into the content today, and that is, of course, end of the year is a big time for Zoweh as a nonprofit mission to pursue funding, to pursue fuel for all the things that we're doing, our events, the resources that we're creating. Most of the resources we create especially for allies, they're free, right? They're free. We want to make that free for you, but they're not free to produce, right? And so the end of the year is a great time to get fuel for that. And I want to make sure we've got a pretty generous donor that is matching up to $20,000 for new partners or increases. So if you have not jumped into supporting Zoweh financially, the end of the year is a great time to do that. As for a gift as low as $10 a month, that now becomes $20 a month, right? If you're already a partner, thank you. Thank you for trusting us, for fueling what we do. I want to let you know that if you consider increasing that your increase would be matched as well. And so that's Zoweh.org/EOY25. So I'll make sure that link gets dropped to you guys as well as you're considering and praying through how you might support and give this holiday season. Thank you guys tremendously. I appreciate you guys very, very much. Now let's dive into the conversation for today. So we've been walking through Listening Well, a guide for men. This is a Bible plan, again, that we produce, and it drops on YouVersion. And what's beautiful about this is, with Basecamp, we're taking these YouVersion plans that are really, kind of suited for individual consumption, right? You're going through it individually. But we want to take these devotions and craft them in a way that you could utilize them in your small groups as well. It could create this is a 6-day plan. It'd be really easy to take this and make it a 6-week series to go through with your leadership. If you've got guys on your leadership team, guys that are helping you really drive the culture of your groups, of your ministries, this would be a great conversation to have with them. That's why we're doing it, because as leaders, as allies, listening is a great skill to have in your toolkit, right? And so really, really love these devotions, and I want to let you know that with Basecamp, you'll be getting this along with some podcast conversations packaged in a small group series for you to have. But day 4, curiouser and curiouser, and I want to just kind of give you this idea that curiosity can transform our listening. Curiosity can transform our listening. Why is listening well so important? Well, just think about it in your own lives. We've kind of covered this, right? I just want to state it again, restate it, that when you feel listened to, you feel valued, you feel seen, you feel known, right? feel valued, you feel seen, you feel known. And when you don't feel listened to, well, then the opposite of that is probably true. Do they even want me here? Do you even care? It's kind of how that gets interpreted, right? But when we listen well, ultimately it leads to trust, and trust leads to connection, relationship, vulnerability. The curiosity can transform our listening, and listening well can lead to trust. We should want that, right? That should be something we want in our culture, of our groups, of our men's ministries. Like, no doubt we should want that, right? And so we're going to kind of go through some of this here. Michael actually writes in The Heart of a Warrior. I love this right here. He writes in The Heart of a Warrior that when a man who is walking with God, is becoming more like Jesus, this is a man who lives with nothing to hide, proven fear. Like, that's a mantra that we all love and cling to. Like, I love this. Yes. When it comes to good listening, it is helpful to adopt a posture of having something to ask, something to learn, and something to gain. Like, if you didn't write that down, you probably should write that down. If you're on your phones, you might want to open up your notes app and just write down, as an ally, as a leader, as a facilitator, as a pastor, as a gatherer, as a small group leader, I should always have something to ask, something to learn, and something to gain. Now, let's be honest. Again, I've kind of said this every week, but most of the training we go through, if we go through any training, is teaching us how to have something to say, how to have something to offer. And when most of us get in a small group session, or we're standing in front of men to talk, we're concerned with what we're saying, and we hope it makes sense, and we hope it lands, and we hope it communicates truth. And listen, like, there's a time and place for that. We should have things to offer and things to say, no doubt about it. But what if our perspective changed in our communities, in our circles, that as a leader, as an ally, I should always have something to ask, something to learn, and something to gain. Not personally gain, but I could gain your attention, I could gain your voice, I can gain insight and context, I can gain your story, and that is the gold that we're trying to mine, right? Something to gain, something to learn, something to ask. So, out of this devotion today, there's a couple things I want to just point out. And the first thing is that curiosity begins with humility, right? Curiosity begins with humility. Why? Well, because if I can be humble enough to assume that everyone has something worth sharing, when you're gathering your guys together in your living room, on your back porch, in your barns, in the classroom at your church, wherever you're meeting, I should enter into every single week, every single circle, with the assumption that everyone there has something to offer and something to share. Not just me, right? Not just me as the facilitator. I think we enter into that, no problems. But we should be able to enter into every circle with that assumption. That is what it means to be humble, right? That humble approach, that it's not just about what I have to say, but it's what I have the opportunity to learn, right? Because we all have something to learn, to ask, and to gain. What we have to become equipped with is that we might need some questions to help fish that out. We need to have good questions ready to help and guide men to offer, to pull that out of them. Because again, as men, most of us aren't wired to share. Yeah, maybe we share about the weather, which is freezing right now in North Carolina. We kind of share about our sports teams. We share about the frivolous things that aren't non-important. But the deeper places of us, most of us need an invitation to do that. And so what if we looked at questions as, and I'm not talking about just yes or no questions, right? We've got to be smart here. We got to be wise. We have to ask open-ended questions that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no, because these invite thoughtful responses, stories, and opportunities for the other person to express how they are feeling and to share more. So in other words, what if we looked at our questions as not just something that we use to start a conversation, but to deepen it, right? deepen it. Meaning sometimes we are trying, I'm reading Enoch's comment, meaning sometimes we are trying to appear like we know everything that we need to know. Yeah, dude, 100%. Dude, as I've done that so many times. I've been in ministry for 20 years. And there are plenty of moments and experiences where I wanted to make sure I could almost prove my value for having that opportunity, right? To speak, to lead, to guide, whatever. I have to prove myself, but I should enter into that with nothing to hide, prove in fear. And if I can do that, if I'm settled in that, well, then now I'm positioning myself in my heart to have something to ask, something to learn, something to gain. And what if we could take our good questions and pair that with engaged listening, not just to start conversations, but to deepen them. And I think that begins with just humility, that everyone there has something to offer, something to share, which is going to help them feel valued, seen, and known. It's going to help them feel comfortable, going to break down barriers. It's going to invite conversation, we should want that. The second thing is good questions engage the heart. Good questions engage the heart. And right here, good questions paired well with engaged listening. It's okay to clarify, especially if you're not sure you understand correctly. Try to mirror what they said in your own words. As an example, it sounds like you're saying that's a great follow-up, right? So the discussion guides that we provide you, and pretty much any other small group resource you go through, right? There's discussion questions. They're good. They will help you start the conversation. We're talking about the second and third, the follow-ups, right? The ones that will deepen the conversation. So as an example, here's a great one. It sounds like you're saying, repeat back what they just said and in your interpretation of it. Is that right? This kind of engaged listening is very valuable, especially in conversations that are serious or confrontational in nature. In those cases, it may be difficult for you to hear their answers. You may want to explain and defend yourself, but try to allow them to share what they experienced and allow yourself to seek understanding rather than to be understood. Understanding and defensiveness seldom go hand in hand. I mean, like, I could end the live stream right there. In other words, I want to boil all that down into one simple takeaway, and that is, let's seek to understand, not to steer and correct. Now, you're going to have to fill that out. Again, some conversations will warrant clarification. But what if the goal could be understanding? What if the goal could be understanding? Now, I mean, this is so good for our allies, our groups. But oh my gosh, what about conversations with our spouse? Conversation with our kids, conversation with our coworkers, conversations with our friends, our family. What if we could seek to understand? Because at the end of the day, the mirror that we're looking at in all of this is, don't you desire to be understood? When you share, when you offer, when you bring up an idea, when you're responding, isn't your desire to be understood? So as we're talking about now our groups, back to our ministries, our communities, our circles, our culture, we should want that in our culture, right? That every man that shows up, there is an assumption and a belief that everyone has something to offer and share, and it is worth listening to, and their stories are worth understanding. And lastly, this is the last of the three. Curiosity begins with humility. Good questions engage the heart. And Jesus modeled it. Jesus modeled this. He asked over 300 questions, simple yet inviting questions within the Gospels. He often stopped what he was doing to offer care to hurting people, and he embraced the interruptions. Write that down. Jesus stopped what he was doing to offer care to hurting people and embraced their interruptions. He wasn't just trying to get through that week's curriculum. The people were the curriculum. Their hearts were the content, right? Next time you read the Gospels, try to imagine Jesus's body language. This is the question I was going to give you, right? Try to imagine Jesus's body language, his tone of voice, his smile, the glimmer in his eyes, the touch of his calloused hands as he pursues the hearts of others through questions. Here are just some of the examples. In Mark, what do you want me to do for you? So in other words, as people were showing up to follow Jesus, he literally leaned in and like, what do you want? When Andrew encounters him in John chapter 1, the first thing he says to Andrew is, what do you want? Not, what do you want? No, Andrew, what are you seeking? What's your desire? Why are you afraid? I love this question. Do you believe that I'm able to do this? So I get the situation. I get what you're sharing. I get how you're feeling. Now let's go deeper. But do you believe that I'm able to do this? That I am able? Do you believe he's able? Like, oh my. The secondary, like internal, let's just not just stay on the surface. Let's get to the root of it. These are the questions that we're after, not ones that just start the conversation, but deepen it. So good. In other words, Jesus asked questions that were rooted in invitation, not interrogation. And if anyone had a right to come in and interrogate and seek to steer and correct, it was Jesus. And yet he modeled a life that was inviting, he invited us to deepen our hearts. It's so good. It's so good. So this, again, I know I just said it, but I want to leave you with this question. When you imagine Jesus asking questions, what do you picture in his tone, his facial expression, his presence? Like, just pause on that for just a few minutes, man. That's a journal entry. That is a day's journal entry right there. And then how can I model that? As his image bearer and as his set apart, chosen, called leader, which is what you are. How can we model that in our lives, in our groups, in our circles, in our families, in our lives? Yeah, Enoch, exactly, man. Halt and embrace the interruptions. So good. So that's Curiouser and Curiouser day 4 of Listening Well, a guide for men. I appreciate you guys for jumping in. Knock. Thank you so much, man, for engaging and helping me get some links out. As I leave you today, just 3 reminders. December the 10th, Allies Roundtable. Go ahead and mark it on your calendar. You're going to get a registration link here on our Facebook group and in your email inbox. That's coming later this week. So make sure you go ahead and mark the date. If you are considering partnering and fueling Zoweh financially, the end of the year is a fantastic time to do that, because we have a $20,000 match for any new partner, any new gift, or any current partner that is desiring to increase your gifts. And then lastly, the Heart of a Warrior registration for the spring is open. We just dropped those links for you there in the chat. And I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a incredible rest of your week. I'm praying for you. And yeah, we'll see you next week for Talkin' Shop.